You can add sequence variables to your datasets. Sequence variables is where you have multiple rows per subject, and the sequence will count for you and for each iteration within each subject. To do that, you click on the Add Seek tool, and in this case you can only select on one dataset at a time, and then you would select on the related domain. It defaults in this case to CM because the dataset name is CM, and then you would select an identifying variable. This is kind of like a sort by variable, so I'm going to choose the date, and then of course the unique subject ID. Once you selected all your options, you can go ahead and click on OK, which will go ahead and update that sequence variable. And it's going to show you a preview of that dataset here, that you can see this sample dataset, and that a new sequence variable is added. So for one subject it will have the sequence, but for a new subject ID the sequence number will start over again. Now in this case you have the option of creating a base code, which means that it's a dataset program that you can run in batch later that first sorts the data and then generates the sequence number for you here. You can also optionally run this in a macro form by selecting on this option to save code, and it has all the same selections that you've made here, similar to the selections from your options that you select from the graphical user interface. Now in addition to finding this, you can also have this find sequence tool, and what it does is it looks through all the data sets that you have in your directory. So it might take a little bit of time depending on how big and how many data sets you have, and it's going to sort by the unique subject ID, and then it's going to try to determine if there are multiple rows, multiple observations per subject ID. In the case where there are multiple rows, it's going to consider that a sequence, a data set that can have a sequence number. But if the data set has it has unique subject IDs, then it would consider those without any sequence variables required. In that case, you would identify which one that needs sequence numbers, and you may want to apply this tool. So in this case, the report generated looks something like this, where it lists all my data sets, and most of my data sets do require a sequence number. There's a couple of demographics, for example, that does not. In addition, you can also generate a dependency report that lists all the programs you have here, and it will show you the order in which you need to run it, because normally the sequence is applied last after all the other programs are applied. So those are some of the tools that you can generate using the Add Seek.